Hello everyone, welcome back to Turtles Cove Media. Whether you're here to watch, learn, or just decompress for a little bit, I'm glad you're here. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we're gonna get right into our code today. So at this point in our game, we have our game window, we have our game grid, we have our tetromino pieces, which we can move, rotate, and they'll automatically fall to the bottom of the screen. And then also once we've completed a row, they will automatically clear. So first things first, we're going to run our code real quick to make sure everything's working like it should be. Nothing's changed since the last lesson. All right. We'll make sure that the line's clear. There we go. Yep, the line's clear and then everything will drop down. All right. And so now what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be we have our core gameplay in place, and now we're going to be adding additional features to actually make it a game. So some big things we're going to be adding today is score tracking, and with that some level progression, which will be tied into dynamic fall speed. So once our players reach a certain threshold, we're going to give them we'll make the game increase the fall speed just to give it more difficulty. Alright, so first thing we're going to be adding a new function today. A small one, not a whole lot going on. We're just going to be calculating the scores. So def calculate. If I can, again, remember to spell. And just something when you're doing this, your programming language is not actually really going to care if the word's spelled correctly or not. It more matters is as you're going through, you're going to have to remember how you spelt it. And so ideally, if you spell it correctly, you're not going to have to hope when you go to bring in that function or that class elsewhere in your code, you're have to figure out how you spelt it or go back and fix it later. All right, so there's not a whole lot to this function. So we're just going to hit return. So we're going to be passing back a value. And so those values were going to be 0, 100, 300, 500, and then 800. And then lines. And then if our lines are between 0 and 4, this is what we're going to be returning. I just pointed at my screen like you guys can see it. Else 0. Okay. And so what's going on? So we have, if there's 0 lines, we want 0 points. So it's because what's going on is each cycle it's checking to see if lines have been cleared. And so that's what we're doing. So most of the time it's just going to be returning 0. Then we have if 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, or 4 lines, which is the maximum that can be done, which this is the Tetris. And then we have one last statement in our else. It says if it's not any other number, it's 0. And that's just a fallback in case something weird happens and either the code gives a negative number, which it shouldn't, but things can happen, or if the number goes above 4, it's just going to return a 0. So that's just to help protect it, prevent any weird bugs or anything from happening during gameplay, because we really don't want that to happen. Alright, and so now that that's set in, we're going to get into our main piece of code, and with adding the score system, and specifically we have to display it, we have to create a HUD, so we're going to be expanding the window around our game grid, and so we're going to be adding a few more things with that. Alright. So we have our fall speed, last fall. Alright, so our score at the start of a game is always going to be 0. We're going to have lines cleared total. And that's going to be important for our dynamic fall speed. We're going to, 0. And that each game that'll start at 0. Our level will start at 1. And then we're going to have to add a font, and that's for our HUD. That's so we can display it to the player. Font. And so with this, for those who haven't seen the Pong videos, so with font, we're just calling an existing function and class that's already exists in Pygame library. So that Pygame is a library we've been using. It provides a lot of functionality, so it just gives us things we don't have to worry about. And so I'm passing it none, so the system is just going to use some default font available. You can tell it specific fonts, but you'll have to provide that or tell it where to find it in the system. So typically, just because we're making small games here and I'm not really concerned with how the font's going to look, we're just telling it none. It's just going to use some default, and we have the actual size of the text. And that's just something you have to play around with to figure out, does it look good to you? Okay. All right. So that's everything we're adding at this currently. So now our first change is we're going to be updating the top part of our while loop. So this is the actual game. This is where everything's going on. Same. Lock Tetramino, grid pieces, and there we go. So this is right under here. This is where we're going to add our first change. If our lines is less than 0. Making sure I didn't forget. Yeah, it's not gonna. Okay, we're good. If lines is greater than 0, we are going to increase the score plus equals calculated score of lines, and then our lines clear total. It's going to, we're going to add, sorry, I'm just making sure I'm reading my notes correctly. So we're just adding the lines to our lines to total because we need to track that. Then our level is going to be our lines clear total, and this divided by 10 plus 1. And so what we're doing here, if that number will divide into 10, so we'll be changing how we do that here in a little bit. We're really just going to be adding some variables to make adjustments easier for the code. But what's happening here, we have our level. So once line cleared total can be divided by 10, it'll divide, so we'll have 1. Once we hit 10 lines, we'll have 1, which we add to what we already have, so it goes up to plus 2. And so once we hit 20, 30, 40, it'll proceed to increase the actual level of speed for the player. So our fall speed will be updated equals max 100 divided by 500. 100 500 minus the level minus 1 times 35. And again, this is the last part. This is so our fall speed. We're telling it can be anywhere between 100 to 500. And we have some adjustment to what the max will be. It starts at 100, it can go up to 500, but that value will change as the levels go up. All right, and then all right, we're going to check the last of my notes. So we're going to have to add a few things. So current draw, there we go. So we have to create our HUD font, which it will not be anything super pretty. Right now we're just focused on make it work. So F score semicolon. Something we can do here, we can use curly braces and just import it, and it will, everything we give it, just do that for now. Level, we could import it and it'll automatically turn it into a string. Nope, we're just gonna do one tab for now. There we go. It's good. And then lines. And then lines cleared total. There we go. Oh, and we gotta tell it true. We're just telling it, hey, we want this to be used. Oh, sorry. And before I'm gonna add, I realize I think I have to add a color. Yeah. That's on me, and we're just gonna add it above this. Just call it text. And we're just gonna give it the value of 255, 255, 255, and that's just white. And I'll just leave a little note there so we remember. You can make the color anything you want, but we're just gonna bring in the text. There we go. Then the last thing, we got to send it to the screen. Dot blit. Our HUD. We're going to be making sure that it will not be in the way of anything. There we go. And if I'm correct, this should be everything we need to do. And I'll go back through. We're going to be changing where we'll be changing some of those raw numbers into variables once we make sure everything's running correctly. There we go. Oh, and there we go. Everything's up top like we wanted. So that won't stay. We will change it, but we want to make sure everything is working correctly first, to the best of our ability. So I'm going to take it to 10 lines. There we go. It's tracking. See if I can't get multiple lines at once here. There we go. So ideally this should give us up our score a good bit, and it does. Everything seems to be tracking. I'm just going to take it to level 2, and we'll clean up the code a bit, and that'll be it for today. In the later lessons, we'll clean up the actual, we'll leave the score, the level of the lines on just the top of the screen. We'll be expanding our window and putting it around just to make everything look nicer. That will be coming down the pipeline. There we go. Sometimes this is the longest part of making any game, is you got to test it. Got to make sure everything functions. And we could do some things and maybe setting the line, you can go through and set the lines while testing at a higher value. Oh, and there we go, level 2, and the pieces definitely are moving faster. And alrighty, so the basics of this is done, but I did want to go through and change a few things and try just to offer maybe a little bit of clarification what's going on. So the big thing what we want to do is this right here. So we have 100, 500, we have level, and then this value right here, this 35, well, sorry, 100, 500, 35, we want to make those into variables. If we can avoid just leaving random numbers in place. We want to do that as much as possible. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but in general it's something we want to do, and as much as it makes sense. So we're just going to scroll back up top. We're going to make these constant variables because this is not something that we want changed by the user. We're just going to say we're going to have a min fall speed. Oh. We're going to set that to 100. We're going to have a max fall speed. We're going to set that to 500. And we're going to call this last one fall speed progression. Very wordy. Yeah, I'm just going to call it fall speed prog, so it's not near as long. And we're going to set that to 35. And so here now, if you're doing testing, you want to change things, you can just come quickly adjust those values. Or as the code becomes bigger, you can just easily go in and change it or use it in multiple places. So we have min fall speed, max fall speed, and then we have far. There we go. So we know what everything is. It's easy to read. We could hand it off to someone else and they'd be able to figure out pretty easily what's going on here. Alright, and we'll just make sure everything's still working correctly. It should. Wasn't any massive change. There we go. I'm going to do something. We're just going to set that to 8 real quick. We're going to make the testing just a little bit faster. Just going to make sure everything feels the same. Something we will also add is if you've played Tetris before, a lot of times you will have a fast drop. So just press a button and the piece will immediately just fall straight down. We will be adding that in a later lesson just to make some of this a little bit easier. Alright, the last piece. There we go. Yep, definitely feels faster. Level 2. Just going to exit, and just so I don't forget about it, I'm going to set that to 0. Alrighty, I believe that's everything for today. And we have our, let me pull it back up. Once it decides it wants to open. Sometimes it can be moody. There we go. So we have pieces moving, we can clear lines, and we have a HUD. The difficulty will slowly increase over time, and that's where we're at this point. So next lesson we'll be adding our first secondary screen. We'll be adding our game over screen and moving on and just continue the progression of taking the core features we've built to make the game a game, and we'll be expanding on that to make it funner and just give us a better experience overall, to give us a defined start, middle, and end for our game. I thank everyone for showing up. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you next time.